Among the cultural heritages of Sri Lanka, the village of Dandubendiruppa, located in the Rangira region, possesses an unparalleled history. It is the annual Devyange Danya, offering to the gods, and Perahara, procession, ritual performed by the residents of Dandubendiruppa village for the god Vishnu. Rituals beginning at the Purana Gedara, ancestral home. The foundation for the village procession to the Rangira Vihara and Devalaya, temple and shrine, begins at the Purana Gedara, located in the very center of the village. When the auspicious day arrives, the entire village takes on a festive atmosphere. A unique feature of this offering is that it is centered around this ancestral home. By 6 p.m. that evening, traditional drumming, havisi, drums, tamatama, and horaneva, is performed in front of the Purana Gedara, where the Mahahema Kada, the main offering, is placed. Subsequently, the chief Kapumahattaya, shrine priest, and other priests perform invocations and prayers to receive blessings. Devyange Danya and male participation. The entire responsibility for preparing and organizing this meal lies with the men of the village. Boiled rice, coconut gravy, kirihodi, pumpkin, mallum, leafy greens, and kiribat, milk rice, are prepared for the alms. A unique feature is that no salt is added to these foods. Almost everyone in the village eats together. The offering of kiribat, kavum, and bananas, served on lotus leaves to villagers sitting on mats spread on the ground, is known as tamma uyaneva. By 7 p.m., when the meal is ready to be offered, it is a long-standing tradition to use a malpala, a floral canopy, decorated with banana trunks and young coconut leaves. Malpala and its unique design. The most notable element of this festival is the preparation of the malpala. Each household contributes a box of kavum to the Purana Gedara. The malpala is constructed by attaching this box of kavum to a bunch of bananas. During this process, a young coconut leaf is woven artistically around the bunch of bananas to make it look like a single fruit, and it is then wrapped in white cloth. According to ancient tradition, the first malpala is offered from the Purana Gedara, located by the roadside, which is known as the Mahahema Kada. This Mahahema Kada holds the prominent position in the procession. The great procession to Rangira Vihara. The procession travels past the Ibbang Katua tank, the Dambula Cricket Stadium Lower Road, and crosses the Kurunegala Dambula Road to reach the Rangira Vihara. Starting around 11 p.m., the procession reaches the temple by 4 a.m. The order of the procession is very systematic. Whip crackers, village boys; fireball performers, village boys; havisi performers, traditional drummers; the Mahahema Kada offering, followed by offerings from other villages, Welangolla, Mattu Porugalayaya, Talagolagalayaya. The offering at the Vishnu Devalaya, and milk boiling. After the procession reaches the temple at 4 a.m., the entrance gate is opened. Subsequently, between 6 a.m. and 6:30 a.m., the villagers perform the ritual of boiling milk, kiri itiravama. Purely prepared milk food is offered separately to the Buddha and the gods. While a 12-member havisi troupe plays traditional music, this milk food is offered to the main statues of the temple and other deities. Seeking blessings and fulfilling vows. At the end of the ceremony, the Devala priests offer prayers to God Vishnu. The villagers thank the god for the protection they have received, praying, "Just as you have accepted this offering of ours and protected the villagers this past year, please continue to provide us with protection in the coming year." Another special feature of this festival is that some people make personal vows to the malpala to resolve their own various difficulties and needs. They construct a malpala in front of their own homes, pray, and include those specific malpala in the procession to fulfill their vows. This extraordinary cultural festival of the people of Dandubendiruppa is not merely a set of religious rites. It is a mirror that beautifully reflects the village's collective spirit, mutual cooperation, and ancestral beliefs. Even in today's fast-paced society, keeping these noble traditions inherited from their ancestors alive is a great cultural service performed by the villagers of Dandubendiruppa.
When we come to the village of Dandubendiruppa, Brother Pandita Rathna, back in the day you were quite famous in the village for astrology, weren't you? And for traditional medicine.
Yes, my father, my father's father, and so on were all famous for astrology, general traditional medicine, Sarvanga Vedakama, and also for charms and incantations, yantra mantra.
That means these are things that came down through generations. But Brother Pandita Rathna, you.
I didn't take up that practice. With my education, I turned towards a different path.
Were those practices mostly carried out within the village through the generations? For example, we've heard that midwifery was done right inside the village. So did people get used to receiving treatments for things like snake bites, boils, sores, and cancers entirely within the village itself?
Yes, that is something passed down through generations. It is a heritage passed from one generation to the next, and it is maintained in the exact same way even today. Then how did that originate in the village? I mean, did it begin solely because of that lineage? From what we know and what we have heard, that is how it was at the beginning. It came down from our fathers' fathers, and then their fathers and great-grandfathers. That is how we've heard it was passed down.
Yes, and those practices exist in the exact same way even today.
They are exactly the same. All those treatments, snakebite medicine, fracture joint treatments, handy Wickrama, general medicine, and treatments for boils. Every one of those medical practices is still active within the village today.
This is the real marvel. For many people living in the village of Dandubendiruppa, these skills are beautifully bestowed upon them almost like a miracle, aren't they? And so they wonderfully live on.
Now, most of the time, many people back in the day knew you as the Grama Sevaka, village servant, of Dandubendiruppa village. But in the early days, they were called Arachis, weren't they?
We had Arachis first, then it became Grama Arachi. After being affiliated with the government, it became Grama Sevaka. Then later, Grama Niladhari. Now it is Grama Niladhari. It went from Grama Sevaka to Grama Niladhari.
Sir, one thing we notice when we come to the Dandubendiruppa village is that the village folks prepare wonderfully every year for the Kavum traditional sweets, processions, and puja processions. Generally speaking, are the Kavum cooked in the houses after that puja? Or if some festival occurs before that, don't they do anything of the sort?
Now it's like this. As a custom in this village, Kavum is cooked for the Sinhala New Year. After cooking that, there's the ritual of anointing oil, right? After the auspicious time for anointing oil on the head, until this puja is taken to the Dambula Viharaya, temple, and offered, no home will cook any food again. No kavum is cooked, nor is any food cooked using oil. Furthermore, they don't fry fish in oil, and no matter what festival comes along, they won't celebrate it. If it becomes absolutely necessary, they get those things prepared and brought in from relatives' houses outside the village.
Why is that? I mean, is there some fear attached to it, or what do you mean when you say they fear those things?
The old folks, I am also someone born in this village. The old folks of this village, our elders, carried that on as a custom back then. There was a belief that if we broke it, sometimes sicknesses like smallpox and cholera would strike. There was a notion that contagious diseases would spread. Another thing was that there was a strong tendency for animals to cause trouble. Things like that have happened during my lifetime. Sir, even when I was born in this village, there weren't more than 50 or 60 houses. The entirety of this village was just this cluster of houses right here, just past the temple. At that time, my ancestral home was down below here. The population expanded after that, towards Pahaladiggala on this side, Mutupurugala on this side, and Velangola on this side. Dandubendiruppa has now expanded massively to nearly 500 or 600 families. And it's this younger generation that makes up its massive size now. This happened within the time I have been consciously aware. Hearing you tell that story, sir, it makes sense why even in recent times, if there's any festival, kavum isn't cooked at home. If that happens, we've heard people say, Vahaswadinava, a curse or misfortune will strike. They fear it. They respect it. It's a very traditional village. Because when dealing with the gods, one must give priority to those customs and do them properly, right?
Truly, there is an amazing devotion and respect towards the gods. Because people have also received help from them. They really have. And yes, if a wrongful act occurs, I have seen instances where people have suffered the consequences. They have been punished. I will give you a good example of that. This almsgiving for the gods was cooked. And on the day of the preliminary puja, out of ignorance, someone came cutting through the yards of houses because there were no proper roads. While passing through the yard of an adjoining house, a girl in that house had attained puberty, come of age, but they didn't know. The person who came was heading to the house hosting the puja, preparing to go to Dambula. while walking right through the middle of the paddy field, carrying the Hemakada, a traditional carrying pole for offerings for the gods, sir, out of a whole crowd of people, a wild bow jumped out and specifically targeted only those two. It tore their sarong and ran off. A bow attacked them. But the Hemakada didn't fall. They held on to it very firmly. That's one incident. Here is another. On a day there was a puja for the gods. It was hosted right here in this house. On that day, a girl in the house was menstruating and had stayed inside. On the day they were leaving, the heavy players, traditional drummers, stopped for the night as the journey to Dambula is long. They went towards Dambula and stopped at a resting place just past the school. While they were pulling out their pouches to chew beetle, a Mapila appeared. They threw the beetle pouches away in fear. After the snake slithered away, they didn't chew beetle again. They just packed up and left. Later, when they were approaching the Dambula Viharya, near the temple gate, there used to be Vahal Kadullu, traditional wooden stiles or gates in front here. Cobras appeared and obstructed their journey. Afterwards, Kapu Mahatturu, lay priests or shamans were brought in to make incantations, and only then did they advise that if anyone was impure in such a way, they should step aside.
Look how fascinating this is, dealing with the gods, making vows to them, fulfilling those vows, and properly observing those rituals. If that doesn't happen, problems arise, don't they, sir?
Problems certainly arise. We have immense faith in the gods. We are so used to it in this village now. Even if a child is going for a job interview, we make a vow. We make vows for a child's educational pursuits too. When we've made vows before exams, we've seen the results. Today, I believe this village has produced some of the highest-ranking officials in Sri Lanka.
This right here is the uniqueness and the culture of the Dandubendiruppa village. This is exactly what we wanted to discuss with the respected figures of this village, who protect these generations.
Generally, a question many people ask and inquire from us is this: how did King Valagamba stay in so many places across Sri Lanka, and how are there so many temples associated with him? People often wonder about that, brother. The main reason for that, as we have heard, is that King Valagamba spent 14 years organizing armies in various places across Sri Lanka, preparing to reclaim his throne. Now, when we come here to the village of Dandubendiruppa, there is a lot of evidence related to that, right? Let's talk about it, brother.
When King Valagamba fought with the Parangi invaders and retreated here, his entire army had perished. The only ones who arrived were King Valagamba, his queen, his horse, and the king's younger brother's wife. At that time, the younger brother's wife was pregnant. As they were fleeing, the horse couldn't bear the load. So King Valagamba's queen had to step down, because there was no one else who could. The king couldn't get down because he had to survive to organize an army to fight, and he couldn't stop or leave the horse behind. The younger brother's wife couldn't step down because she was pregnant. Therefore, it was King Valagamba's queen, Somadevi, who stepped down. It was after leaving Somadevi behind that King Valagamba arrived here. Before it was called Dandubendiruppa, this place was known as Alakolaveva. Originally, it was Alakolaveva. Back then, there was an ancestor of ours, a Vedda named Rana. It was this Vedda who built a timber fence, Danduvata, around a Ruk Attana tree to protect King Valagamba from the enemy. That is how the name Dandubendiruppa, the settlement where the timber was tied, came to be. Having protected the king, the Vedda brought him Veera fruits and wild honey to eat. As a tribute for providing him food, King Valagamba had no material wealth to offer him, so he bestowed upon him the honorary name Ranaveera Vanasingha Mudiyansala. That is where this lineage begins. Then, during their escape, the king's younger brother's wife was hidden at Beliyakanda. After hiding her, King Valagamba couldn't find her as he was busy organizing the military forces here. Later, someone saw her and told the king, "Obey Liyakanda, your woman is on the mountain." Remember earlier that uncle mentioned to us how the name Beliyakanda came about? So, Obey Liyakanda eventually became Beliyakanda. While staying here, King Valagamba organized his army. There is a mountain here called Neeravva. They dug a tunnel from the Neeravva mountain to travel to Dambulla. That tunnel is now sealed off at the Dambulla cave. Through that tunnel, he organized the army, arranged for arms, food provisions, and prepared everything before going back to war.
Before heading to war, the place where they pounded paddy for the arms is what is now called Dahayakhanda, Mountain of Chaff, over near the Dambulla cave. After offering the arms here, King Valagamba went and rescued the queen. The place where he rescued her is where the Somavati Chaitya is built today.
Right. Now, regarding these kinds of things, brother, apart from what comes down through folklore, is there usually any written evidence for this?
Yes, there is. There is a temple called Tiriyaya, which is connected to the Anuradhapura Sambodhi Viharaya. The record was with the chief monk of that Tiriyaya temple. It's a palm leaf manuscript, Puskolapota. I managed to discover those details when I went there for some university work for my daughter.
Look at that! It's because of that incident that we are able to uncover this history. Otherwise, these things would just get buried and forgotten, wouldn't they? So is there a Kavum Perera connected to this?
There is a Kavum Perera. As a gesture of gratitude to the Vedda named Rana for what he did, King Valagamba exempted him from certain duties. When the tom-toms, Andabera, were beaten to summon people to Dambulla, the king told everyone else to come, but specifically told Rana not to come. So our ancestor Rana didn't go there. Afterward, he was given not just Dandubendiruppa, but a large territory. However, the land grant of Dandubendiruppa was made his primary domain. He was told he didn't need to pay taxes or dues to the temple. He was granted those privileges. However, sometime later, the male children in our village started dying one by one. Following that, our ancestors made vows, brought Kapu Mahatturu, shamans or priests, to the village and made pledges to stop the tragedy. It was from making those vows to God Vishnu that the Kavum Perera first began.
Excellent. Look, there are so many facts and details in our history that we are completely unaware of. So these are the pieces of evidence we find from the village of Dandubendiruppa. Even today, they remain very much alive. Thank you very much, brother. Thank you very much.